Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Object Matrix and Cantemo webinar. We'll be looking today at the powerful portal asset manager, along with a secure media-focused object storage MatrixStore. Here today is myself, Mark Aberfield, along with Martin Felbrink from Cantemo.
Hello.
And we'll be talking you through a little bit about the product. So we'll just do a quick company overview and product insight. We'll have a quick look at the workflow, and then Martin and myself will give a quick demo. Question and answer session at the end, if you find any along the way, or please do pop any questions into the chat window through the webinar. So first of all, I'll tell you a little bit about Object Matrix. A few of you probably already had this before, but we'll run through it anyway. Object Matrix is a software company from sunny South Wales. We pioneered object storage back in 2003. And before that, we helped build some of the first object storage. My bosses who started the company helped working with another company setting up various original object storage systems that are still worked in the industry today. So there's a real history of storage. So as a company, Object Matrix, our key ethos is protecting content. That's our business. That's what we like to do. And we like to make sure it's secure and safe and really help the end user. And again, working in media, that's our other passion. We love the media industry. We understand the media industry. It's our bread and butter, and that's where we live. So, you know, other storage vendors, they try and get you to adhere to their workflows and their technology, whereas we spent years in the industry and making sure that our technology is working for the media industry and their workflow and challenges. So when did we start? Well, we started back in 2003, and as I mentioned, my bosses came from another storage company. And back then we had, in 2004, an object storage and an API. Well, that was very, very early to industry. Not many people knew anything about storage other than hard disk on your computer. And even more so, in 2005, we set up the first storage as a service. That was in the Netherlands, a cloud storage system. And again, far too early to market on that one. So unfortunately, it didn't do too well. In 2006, however, we did pick up our first couple of customers within the media industry and the creative workflows. So we then spent a few years out there making sure that our systems were more suited for the media industry. In 2009, we set up our Avid integration, and that really helped us leapfrog into larger companies and more media focused. And then from then, it's just been growth on growth, company on company, some of the biggest names out there, from post houses to sports companies, news companies, ad agencies, and even more recently, effects companies as well, After Effects, etc. So I think we can safely say there's not many companies out there who've got the history in the media industry that we do. So the obligatory statement slide. Object Matrix is the strategic partner who understands your industry, enables global collaboration, increases operational efficiency, and empowers creativity. It's a powerful statement. It's a powerful claim, but it's something we do strive for. We want to stop your staff managing media, doing laborious tasks. We want to make sure they can get the assets they need to get globally when they need it. And we just allow creatives to be creative and monetize those assets. That's our core ethos. So the obligatory customer slide, as you can see, there's plenty on there all around the world. There are some that aren't on there because we're not allowed to talk about them. But yeah, everything from UK, France, Europe, USA, South Africa, quite a bit in Latin America. More recently, we've picked up one in New Zealand as well. So certainly around the world. You've also probably spotted there is a couple of banks and energy companies on there, but those are media workflows. The banks decided they needed a studio and an Avid setup within their own head office, so they did that, and they needed a secure storage, and they came to us for that. Similar with the energy films, they're taking lots of videos of their nuclear power stations, and they've got exactly the same problem as everyone else in the media industry. Lots of video, they need a way to ingest it, tag it, store it, make sure it's safe, and at some point archive or reuse it later down the line. So always the media workflows out there. I'll hand over to Martin now to tell you a little bit about Cantemo.
Yeah, thank you. As Mark said, I'm the Martin Fellbrink. I'm the product manager of Cantemo Portal. I'm gonna introduce you shortly to what Cantemo is, and in a minute about what is Cantemo Portal. For more than a decade ago, the founders of Cantemo, Tim and Param, saw a trend of companies throughout the world from various industries that the effective way of communication was through videos. So they wanted to create a platform to help them manage the media throughout the life cycle. So we started building a platform to address the fundamental problems of media management. We wanted to have intuitive user experiences, new and innovative ways of managing the media, and with the right tools for the customers, even before they realized they needed them. And we wanted to make that the creative people continued to be creative without stopping from technological problems, and collaborate with each other. So if you take the next slide, there's some brief background of company milestone. We were founded 2010, and we are a self-founded company and has been continuously growing. As you see, we got some awards from both Deloitte and Gazelle for being fast-growing companies in Sweden. We are still a small company. We are around 25 employees. Most of us are based in Stockholm, Sweden, but we also have employees in Austria, Finland, Ukraine, and the United States. If you take the next slide, here's some of our customers. And as you can see, they include the traditional broadcasters and big production companies that work with the media workflows. But we also have from different industries like sports teams, banks, universities, house of worship, and non-profit organization. And they all work with the Cantemo Portal product to tailor their needs. And we work in an ecosystem-based project delivery, so we at Cantemo can focus on the product development of Cantemo Portal and let our integrators or partners tailor the customer's needs for the customer, and together with our technology partners like Object Matrix. This was a quick overview of Cantemo, and I'll head back to Mark to talk about the MatrixStore.
Thank you, Martin. Obviously Object Matrix is the company and MatrixStore is the product. MatrixStore is an object storage platform. It's built to be optimized for video workflows, integrated into your media workflows effectively. It's achieved by massive efforts with fantastic partners such as Cantemo, and we're doing the testing and the integration so you can have a great experience when it comes to actually using it. Hopefully you'll see that in the next couple of slides. More importantly, I think it's good to just say that we're more than just a Bitbucket and an API or an S3 interface. We've got a lot more to offer when it comes to media workflows. How do we achieve that? Well, we've got a concept of digital content governance, making sure the data is safe, making sure the access is very tight, full audits, full security, and controls. We provide the vaults that allow the multi-tenancy within the same storage and multiple workflows by using those vaults, and full business rules support, so the ability to decide how the assets are maintained over the time, as well as built-in disaster recovery, and more importantly, business continuity, being able to get back to your assets within seconds, so that you're not out and offline for any length of time. How do we do that? Well, we've got a lot of metadata and intelligence built into the MatrixStore itself. So we've got full metadata support via our API, but we've also got a process in place, which is where we actively find media assets. We're based in the media world. We know what a media asset is. So we will extract media metadata, anything in the IMF CPL files, anything in an AS10 or AS11, XMP, anything we find within the asset, and even just the simple stuff, the EXIF and the frame rates and the anything regarding media asset that we can find, extract, and make available to the end user. Also, more recently, got a powerful analytics tool built into the storage as well, so you can see when the assets are hot, which everyone seems to be hitting the same asset. We can start seeing those within our analytics tools. We can also see load on the system. Everyone's saving at the end of the day, or there's suddenly a big call for a lot of assets at certain times. And then also those analytics allow you to make the decision about how you tier the assets, what's the life cycle. Maybe it could be a bit shorter or a bit longer, depending on how you do that. When it comes to access, like I said, we're more than just an S3 interface. We've got many different ways to see it and integrated into many file-based workflows. We've got the ability to work with many third-party applications, with some such as Cantemo talking directly to our API, and others just using standard file system interfaces for more simple usage. What we do have is something called MXFS, MatrixStore File System, and that's a fast file-to-object interface that just sits on Windows, Mac, or Linux and mounts it as a local drive, gives real good access to your system. We also describe ourselves as being very future-proof. The ability to scale, just add some extra nodes when you need it with your business, grow with your business. When the workflow changes or the latest technology comes along, we can adapt to it and normally fit into those new workflows throughout the life cycle. And then we can be deployed in various hybrid workflows and data tiering and continual integration into new workflows. So let's talk about our applications. Well, on the right there, you'll see we've got our API. We've got a powerful C API, a Java API, and an S3 API. But more importantly, you've got other ways to get to your data. We've got Samba and NFS, pretty standard protocols, but they're not within the storage itself. We put them on a gateway just so that if they get into trouble, we can just swap them out at any time, knowing that the storage itself is secure. We've got our ingest tool, Dropspot, that's still used today to add extra metadata, as well as our web browser, which just gives you a view on the assets that are just in your MatrixStore. So again, another way to get back into your assets should you need to. Mentioned MXFS, our MatrixStore file system. We've also got S3 Connect, where we act as if we are an S3 bucket. And then we've got Move to S3, where we can push off to S3 buckets. And also, again, control the tiering, simple setup to talk to your S3 bucket and the tiering down to Glacier, etc. The last one I just mentioned is Interconnect, our plug-in to the Avid Interplay PAM, where we are able to mirror your interplay to the MatrixStore, and then should the need arise, you can restore it to any other interplay within your system or in a second DR location. So how do we deploy? Well, we deploy mostly on-premise, private cloud, but we are getting more and more people putting it off-premise in a data center, just popping in a nice big pipe between their offices and the data center. That works quite nicely because it's safe, secure in somewhere else. We've also more recently got MatrixStore as a service, MAAS, and we've got that deployed in the UK, France, and soon to be US and also South Africa. I always forget South Africa. And then, of course, we've got the obligatory hybrid workflows up to public cloud for that third copy and the elastic workflows. Lastly, I'll just talk about the benefits for the stakeholders. We try and please everyone, which is not an easy thing, but we do try. So for the end user, we try to save them time, simple, intuitive interfaces, easy collaborative tools that talk to various systems and in a non-disruptive way. We try and please the CEO and the CFO with predictable costs, predictable growth, easy expansion, and bring just general financial benefits, clear return on investment for the end user, for the CFO. And then they know they can, grow engagement and top line revenue growth throughout there. And then lastly, we try and make those CTO and the CTO's engineers happy by ensuring they've got a nice, secure, future-proof platform, something that's got minimum amount of maintenance, minimum amount of interfaces to mess around with, and fully secure, fully scalable, and very flexible deployments for them. So again, I'll hand back over to Martin, who can tell you a little bit more about Portal.
Yeah, thank you. This is a great slide that describes Portal pretty good. It's an extensible, adaptable, and no need to change the core media asset management system. The first thing that comes up here is the ingest upload things, and there are a couple of ways you can get media into Portal. One of them is, simply web upload or native agent upload, but a common way is actually you set up a MatrixStore, configure that in Portal, and let them auto-import everything that exists on the MatrixStore, depending on certain file name, regular expressions, and so on. Or you can do manual import from storages. The transcoding, we do have a transcoding framework that is easy to use, possible to add new third-party transcoders to tailor the needs for the customer if they have in-house transcoders. We ship our product with a VideoSpine transcoder. The same goes for the archive place, where we have an archive framework to basically trigger hooks when you should archive and when you should restore and comply with the archive of the customer. We do have a bunch of plugins for various archives. Next thing is to manage the media. We have a flexible metadata setup where you can have a lot of metadata groups for different areas in the system. And also, next thing is to distribute and export the media to YouTube or your web server, or the channel, the playout server if you're a broadcast company. And the most important thing is to do collaboration of the files and work with Final Cut Pro 10, Adobe Premiere Pro, or Avid to send files back and forth between the system, and I'm gonna show you a bit later on that. Then as I said, we have a core, but we also have, if you take the next slide, this is the generic search interface where we have collections, saved searches, media bins, and so on. And everything in the system is accessible from a web server, well, from a web client. So if you take the next slide, where we have the integration layers, basically we have public APIs, and those APIs we work with ourselves. So if we have bad APIs, our web interface going to suffer. We provide a couple of plugins, and this is just the plugins that we provide. We also have integrators that are developing plugins using our APIs, the same APIs as we use for our plugins, to tailor the needs for the customer. If we briefly go through the different tools, first we have the Annotation Tool, and you can take the next slide. This is a simple tool for working with. For an item, you have a video player, you mark your in and out point, you describe the metadata and create your subclip. That subclip can be later used in our rough cut editor, or you can, for doing editing, or you can use your a third-party product, sending this as segmentation that we have some customer is doing. The next plugin is Rules Engine, which is a powerful business process setup where you can do the business logic of a lot of the workflows that the customers need. You can set up multiple workflows to create rules based on a collection, send that to us, export storage for subtitling, or a playout server, or a web-based. You can do operation on saved searches, restore from archive, or archive these assets. You can also set up metadata hooks. So when something happens, when metadata is changed, you can trigger certain actions, and you can set up distribution workflows like send these files into this specific path onto your object matrix. The next plugin is the rough cut editor, and it is simply what the name is. It is a rough cut editor. Can only work with videos, can do straight cuts, and basically what the first aim for this product was to save a sequence that you can bring up in Final Cut Pro 10 or Adobe Premiere Pro to continue to work and do the final edit, because this is accessible from the web page, and you may not have as many edit stations. You can also render a new asset if you don't need any coloring changes or any audio fixes, then you can definitely use this tool. The next tool is a workflow extension to Final Cut Pro 10. The latest couple of releases from Apple has made this possible to actually build in a workflow extension within Final Cut. So the editor working in Final Cut never needs to leave their edit suite. They can be there all the time, search for assets in an easy way of searching, And when they have found their asset, they can even drag that asset directly to the timeline in Final Cut Pro 10. And when the edit is done, you can export the project or render a new asset. And our native Cantemo agent can pick that up. You have the possibility to add your customized metadata to it and export that back into the Cantemo portal, and it becomes available for other editors that maybe should do a new version of this, or just archive this asset for future use, or for sending out to your web platform. The same works with Adobe Premiere. It has a built-in panel that you install separately, and you work with searching within Portal. And during you just search for the asset you want to, bring it into your project, and when you're done with your edit, you press render and export. You decide if you want to export a project only. Maybe you're not done with your final edit, but someone else is taking over tomorrow, or you want this to be saved on a store place, and then Cantemo Portal can help you with that. Or you are done with everything and you create the render, then the file is rendered in Media Encoder, and when the render is done, the Cantemo agent picks this up and uploads this together with your decided metadata into the system. And this works in both Mac and a Windows environment. Last, we have the deployment models, and as Mark said, the Matrix stores in mostly deployed on premise, and same goes for the Cantemo portal. It runs on a Linux Red Hat server, but we have seen more. Well, we have gotten more and more cloud installations, either a server in a cloud, public or private, or a hybrid cloud solution. But we also have a Dockerized environment, and on our public GitHub repository, there's documentation on how to set up Cantemo Portal within a Dockerized environment. And our goal is, well, to tailor both the deployment and also the product to suit the customer needs, and not change the core. Use our public APIs to actually, well, provide the solution that the customer wants. And that's basically what I wanted to say about Cantemo Portal.
Great, thanks for that, Martin. So, some things I didn't even know there, so that's quite good to hear. So let's just have a quick look at the workflow. If you've had a chance to read our solution sheet, you may have seen this diagram already. That's available on our website. But we're just trying to get across the idea that the Cantemo portal sits across many workflows. You've got the ingest content, where it puts it where you decide based on the rules engine. So the low res can go in the production storage, the high res on the MatrixStore. Of course, we can have multiple vaults within that MatrixStore, so we can also have our nearline and our archive vaults in there as well. Again, the rules engine can transcode and distribute and play out from the MatrixStore in that way. And of course, we've got Portal having the ability to initiate those workflows, do all that business logic, annotate those videos, do those rough cuts, ready to be pushed into the editing platforms, distribution packages created up and distributed out as well as all those ability to have the backup and even have the remote teams working to make sure they've got the simple, consistent experience. So you could have quite a few of the editorial teams completely in the Cantemo Portal world without even knowing there's a MatrixStore under the hood. But of course, the C-level people all know there's a MatrixStore protecting the assets and improving the workflow and ensuring you've got that hybrid backup DRBC side of things out there. So if Martin would like to take the screen, you can show us how it looks in real life out there.
Yep. Okay. Well, I know, Mark, tell me if you cannot see the screen.
No, looks good.
Okay, great. This is the default search screen of Cantemo Portal. There you have a lot of different search criteria, technical metadata extracted from the files, what video codec it is, or asset metadata, who created this asset, who uploaded this, is it archived, does it belong to any project? And then you have the user-defined metadata, where you can set up as many metadata groups as you would like to. So, but the most common way is to search on a free text search. Then you get suggestions. I searched for Stockholm here, but actually I got a lot of hits, a lot of images that I'm not interested in because I'm working with videos today. So I just filter down on the facets to provide to get the videos. And if I'm going to work with this myself, I can do operations on the pod directly, or have a large gearbox that to transcode to a specific format. In this case, I want to add them to the bin, and I want to add them to a collection because I need to share this with someone else. And what we do is each asset, we have access rights to those items, but if you add them to a collection, you can have access right on the collection that gives access to items within the collection. So if you're a different user here, you can get access to the shared collection because that's shared between multiple users. Uploading assets, we have the web uploader. You can just add files or drag files there. I'm uploading an audio file. Here I have the possibility to add the metadata at once. I can have the different metadata schemas. Normally, you configure the system that certain user work with this metadata schema and other users work with another. I put my fields, season 2, episode 2, I set the metadata and it fails because I haven't filled in all the mandatory fields. So the release date for this was the 6th, and then I just start the upload, and this get indexed, and depending on the setup, it's transcoding to one format or multiple formats, depending on your configuration, and it's being indexed so I can search for it. In this system, I've also set up an object matrix storage, so it's really easy. Just click add a storage, put in all the access criteria for the object matrix and the IP address, and then we can view the files there, import what we want to have, or work with our rules engine to create the rule based on, well, a saved search or the collection I created. I can give access or copy the files to not to the object matrix storage and modify directories and give this a directory structure, or create directories based on the metadata that you have provided in your user-defined metadata. That was a really quick overview of the Cantemo portal. Here you can also see the collection and the saved searches that has been done in your system, and you also have search history. But yeah, that was quick overview, and you will have contact details later how to get to know more about Cantemo portal.
Okay, thanks for that, Martin. That's really useful. So, well, I'll just quickly show you. Saw the OMMS options within the Cantemo there. So let me just show you where you get that from. Well, first thing you need is the IP of the node. One will do, but multiple is ideal. And then we just need to start filling in the details. So we need a cluster ID to be in the OMMS settings. We need a vault ID, which we can easily show from here. And there's my Cantemo archive one. There, simply just by clicking a button. And then the last thing, we just need a set of credentials. We need a user who's going to have a unique access key and ID key and secret. And again, we just pop those in, and away we go. We've got our portal connected to the MatrixStore vault in that way. So obviously here I am running around our admin tool. This is what gives us a look over our MatrixStore. We mentioned multi-tenancy, the ability to have various vaults doing various things, no limit on those, as many as you like. Of course, we've got full user credentials with great granularity and integration into Active Directory side of things. If you wanted to include an extra workflow, and remember, all of our applications are completely interchangeable, so if you did bring them in with Cantemo portal, you can view them using our standard Samba file system, and we just control our exports from here to see which vaults are shared in that way out there. And then we've got the full audits built in, telling us who's viewing what or working on what part of the system throughout. And we can see anything that happens with those vaults all coming up within here. I mentioned the analytics side of things. This is fairly new to us. It's only been around for about a year, but it's now the ability to see what's happening within your cluster. So not only have you got an overall status, what's happening with the node and the hub within the system, we can also dive into a bit more granularity. We can actually see what is actually happening at a hardware level, each one of the systems, and how it's being hit throughout there. As well as granularity of not only the individual vault statistics, but even now to the application level, seeing which applications are hitting the cluster in certain ways throughout the system as well. So that all comes out of what we call our Sense application or database, which is generating lots and lots of statistics from the MatrixStore. And then you can use an off-the-shelf product such as this one, where you create your panels, and we've got a few predefined ones as well, as you can see, which are quite useful for looking around your system and seeing what's going on within it. So I mentioned MXFS, MatrixStore file system, simple way to just mount your volume as a local volume. You can then link to it using Adobe if you for some reason aren't using Portal, and very useful tool. But we've also got our Vision browser as well. The Vision browser just allows us to see those assets. Access doing this thing just allows us to see those assets within the Matrix Store, should you need to. And again, you've got the usual search, the ability to play them if you've already generated a proxy within the system, and all that metadata as well, the stuff that's either been extracted or is already there from various systems out there. So again, you've got the full suite of tools, all completely interchangeable with the portal side of things, should you need them throughout the system. So I think that's just a quick overview of the two systems together, and you can see how they technically just meld together using the API. So I think I'll just pass on to questions and answers. Have you got any questions? Now's the time to go for it. I will enable unmute if you'd like to talk. And equally, you're welcome just to pop it in the chat window. But to get us going, I always pop a few in there. So how long have MatrixStore and Cantemo worked together? Well, since day one, really, 2010. We were chatting with the guys at Cantemo quite nicely. And of course, we have got several joint deployments. If you were looking at our relative customer slides, you would have spotted Orange on there, MTA, MSG, The Guardian, and a couple more in the US who are more new, but I can't name at this moment in time. Is there any reporting in Cantemo Portal regarding asset use, or would that be restricted to the OM dashboards? Martin?
I guess that question is for me. Yes, there are several ways of regarding assets use. We do have a generic interface where you can see the total amount of assets, but we also have the audit tool plugin where you can actually get a lot of audits, who has access certain video files, who has edited the metadata, who deleted assets, and so on. That can be done through the audit tool, and since Cantemo Portal does not necessarily have to have all the files on the object matrix storage, the values between the dashboards of the object matrix and what Portal has will probably vary. The reports in the audit tool are of course customizable. It uses public APIs, so you can both customize it on the web page, but also use your customized API if you want to get this into an Excel sheet or whatever you would like to, how to present it.
I think we do live in a world of analytics and reporting these days, so it's good to see that both tools can do that in some way. Yeah, okay. I think that's all the questions. Thank you very much for joining us, guys. And thank you very much for joining us today. The webinar is recorded, so we'll be available online shortly afterwards. I might have to do the afternoon one first, just to get the full suite of questions. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone joining us, and I hope it's been useful. Thank you as well to Martin for your time on this.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.